Whenever I do these videos in the summer, I pretty much always only show crochet things, and I always say that for me crochet is summertime and knitting is wintertime, and that very much also applies to the winter season and all the projects that I have planned this winter, because there's not a single crochet project on my list. So I'm really sorry for all of the crocheters out there. Unfortunately, you will not be represented in this video, but for the knitters out there, this one's for you, because I have some very, very fun and exciting plans for this winter season. So for December, January and February, and yeah, I cannot wait to share with you. I also just have to show you who's here next to me, of course, always. And also, as I was just doing my hair, can we just talk about how lovely and shiny and curly my hair is underneath the top layer of my hair? What's that all about? And then it's just frizz on top. Like, why can't all my hair be this shiny? But anyways, let's get into my winter plans. One of the things that I want to do is make more samples of this cardigan that I knit in autumn, and this actually was on my autumn plans, which is just nice. Like, I am actually really proud of myself for like following through with the projects that I set myself. So this is the main sample that I have been working off to write my pattern, and the pattern has been written, it's been tech edited. Truly humbling process having this tech edited. It's the first item, well, I've got one item that needed grading, but that was just based on 2 measurements, the waist and the hip measurement, whereas this has a lot more measurements taken into account. So I had this graded and I'm now having it tech edited, and it was a lot more complicated than I initially planned. I knit this one in 2 types of stripe, and I've realized for my pattern writing, I really like making my samples in a stripe because it just helps me count my rows, and also makes inconsistencies really obvious, because your stripes just simply won't line up if your rows are incorrect and like your construction's incorrect, if that makes sense. So yeah, I've made 2 of these. However, the pattern is actually written for just one singular colour, not for stripes. Like I said, the reason I made them in stripes is because of counting and pattern writing. So I want to make some actual one colour ones, and one of them I think I'm gonna make in a drops air, just because I really like the fluffiness, and this one does have alpaca as well, doesn't it? Yeah, love alpaca. However, I have since then, I don't know if it was in a TikTok comment or in an actual TikTok, I don't know, I can't remember, but someone mentioned that if you work with this on like a wearable garment, to hold it with another strand of like just wool, which actually makes so much sense, because it will just give the strands a bit more structure, whereas this is obviously quite hollow on the inside. So I remembered that I have this Knitting for Olive merino, if you can see, if the lighting will, there you go, the Knitting for Olive merino. So I think I'm planning to hold these double. Now I haven't test swatched it yet, I don't know what the gauge for this will be and if this will be suitable for my pattern. I feel like it might be a little bit too thick, but we shall see. So I really want to make a black one. I don't have a single black cardigan, jumper, anything, and I feel like it's just a really good basic to have, so that's one of them. And then I also want to make a beige one. So this pattern is actually based on a cardigan that I knit like years ago now, and that one has massively stretched out, but I love wearing that so much because it has this like beige colour that I really like wearing. So my plan was to frog that cardigan and re-knit it using my pattern, because now I actually have things measured to the correct size and everything. But then someone left a comment saying it would be good if I then held that yarn that I've frogged with another yarn, which again makes so much sense, because the yarn from that cardigan, which I've worn so much, is gonna be a lot more worn out, a lot more stretched out, so holding that double with a new yarn will probably make a lot of sense. I haven't quite figured out yet what kind of yarn I'll use with that. I might just order the Copenhagen merino, fine merino from Hobby, because that is like a really fine sort of wool yarn that I could, yeah, hold up with that. So I'm gonna start that once the pattern is fully tech edited, because yeah, my plan is to knit 2 more samples, and I really wanna follow the pattern completely fresh, like completely tech edited, graded, as if one of my testers was to knit it, if that makes sense. I'm not in a massive rush to have that pattern released, so I'll probably start that sometime in December, possibly January, I don't know just yet. Then I bought some yarn to make the Eve dress by Le Paul. Been eyeing that one up for ages. My mum actually sent that to me as well, and I was like, yeah, obsessed. I love it. I wasn't really planning on making it until like literally the other week when I was like, I'm just gonna order the yarn, basically because I think I'm gonna get a shit ton of wear out of that dress. Like, it is so cool, so gorgeous. I love an A-line dress shape, like that's my go-to dress shape. And I'm also thinking of possibly adjusting the pattern to make it backless, or like a cutout in the back for my back tattoo to come out, because then I think I'm really gonna get a lot of wear out of that. I think I will initially knit the yoke as is in the pattern, just to get like the top of the piece as a reference, and then I'm going to figure out where I will sort of like decrease for the shape of the whole. And then I think at the top I'm going to just like add a button closure. This is all in theory, I don't know how well that's going to turn out, but it was a little bit tricky to find the yarn for this. So the first one that I got is the Lana Grossa Cosmo. Both of these are an exact replica of the yarn suggestions, so in terms of yarn weight and meterage, they work out the exact same, so I was very happy to find this one. This is 100% cotton as well, which I love. I found some alternatives and they were more of like a nylon polyamide, but I don't want to be sweating when I'm wearing it, so 100% cotton is pretty good. And then I'm going to hold it double with this Dale Garn, can you tell I haven't got my glasses on, Dale Garn Glitter Effect yarn, and this one is 60% viscose and 40% polyester, so that one's obviously an artificial yarn, but it's very thin and the majority of the yarn will be this one. And also, in order to get this effect, you can't go natural, like this doesn't exist in the natural world. But yeah, I'm gonna hold these double. I actually tried to wind them up together already on the yarn winder, however these things, they don't go through the yarn winder hole. Although I'm now actually realizing I could have just held it with my hand. I'm gonna try that because I think it will be a lot easier if I already have both of the yarns wound up together. I think if I can make the backless thing work, that would be incredible. It's gonna look gorgeous either way, even if it's not backless. I'm not gonna start the dress just yet. I have another project that I need to finish, including the Eve dress. I'm working on 3 things that need a 4mm needle, and I only have 1 pair of 4mm needles. I could get more, but I'm kind of thinking that's gonna help me pace my projects a little bit more by just working on one of them. Another one that I will be working on that is also on 4mm needles, weirdly actually, because the suggested needle size on the yarn is a 6mm, and I'm holding it double, so it should be way more than a 6mm, but for some reason I ended up with a 4mm. I don't know how that works. Some of you might have seen on my Instagram, I'm going to be knitting a Christmas jumper. I've wanted to make a Christmas jumper for ages now, and Cancer Research UK are actually doing a knit your own Christmas jumper challenge to raise money and awareness for their research, and so it was like the perfect time to just do it this year, bite the bullet, and also raise awareness for a good cause. I don't think it's too late yet to sign up to the challenge, so I'll leave the link down below so you can create your own account and join the challenge. I'm not getting paid to talk about this whatsoever. They're a charity, just like a nice thing to do for a good cause. But yeah, when you sign up to their challenge, you do get a pattern to follow, or you can also make your own one, which is what I wanted to do. I'm actually going to film a dedicated video just for the Christmas jumper, so I'm going to save all the information about this and the designing and blah 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 for that video, so stay tuned. It's going to come out at the end of December when the jumper is done. This is the age swatch that I made with the 4mm needles. I really wanted just like good coverage. It's still a little bit see-through. I don't know if you can, I don't think you can see it on the camera because the light's coming from that way. And for that I wanted to try out the new Copenhagen Fibers range by Hobby, which like every single pattern designer, knitting person that I follow on Instagram got sent this. I bought this with my own money because they did not send me that. Which is fine. So I'm holding the brushed alpaca double with the merino light, and I really thought I found the correct shades to match them, but they are so different, which I was a little bit annoyed about, but I actually quite like how the sort of lighter brown pops through every now and again. So yeah, this is what I was mentioning. This one has a recommended needle size of 6mm, and this one is a 3.5mm, but the actual jumper I'm going to knit in a 4mm, just because any larger needles made way too much of a gap, and I do want a little bit of structure in my yarn. So I'm using this brown as my main colour, then sort of a beigey colour, again not a great colour match, and this is my secondary colour, and then I'm doing a red and a blue as my sort of detail colours. I have figured out the design is going to look like this. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to do a dedicated video for that, so I don't want to keep like repeating myself in this video as well. I'm going to start this next week because it needs to be done by Christmas, obviously, and ideally like a little bit before so I can wear it. I think I'm actually going to aim to finish it by the 20th or the 21st because my friends and I are doing a movie marathon on one of those days, so it would be really nice to wear it to that. We're not watching Christmas films, but I just feel like leading up to the Christmas period, being cozy, that would be a really cool jumper to wear, and also just to show off to my friends. So yeah, if I start next week, I have about 20 days to finish it, which should be doable. It's just the fact that I'm also self-drafting the actual jumper itself. I'm now thinking maybe I need to start like now. Then the third thing that I'm doing on my 4mm needles, which is actually currently on my 4mm needles, is actually a spring summer project that I am finally, for once in my life, ahead of the season to hopefully release this in time for spring and summer. One person actually guessed in my last video that I was working on this. So basically I made this bow top ages ago on my knitting machine using secondhand yarn, and also it's kind of like a mohair fibre, which it looks gorgeous, right? Beautiful. It's just not very nice to wear in the summer. Like, it's a flowy, lightweight, see-through top, but I can't wear it in the summer, and then I really don't know how to wear it in the winter and the autumn. Trust me, I've tried. I just can't make it work, and it's just because it's the wrong fibre for that type of project. So for the longest time, same as with the striped cardigan that I'm working on, been meaning to write a pattern for this project. The main challenge that I was facing for this was finding an alternative yarn. The secondhand mohair that I used, which I also just had no information about. The cone had no information on the yarn weight, on the fibre, nothing. So I basically had to start from scratch with that one. As much as I love the look and the fit of that top, I don't love the construction of it, and I thought that I could make it into a raglan instead. So I'm literally starting at square one. Like, I technically have a sample, but not really. Like, I basically want to maintain the essence and the general fit of that top, but make it better and make it more suitable for the summertime. So I found this yarn, which I did have the label for it, but I lost it. So I'll put a picture here of the yarn. I'm holding it double to make it thicker and more like the original mohair yarn. And this is the gauge swatch that I came up with. And in terms of like colour and see-throughness, this is pretty similar. Like, I am really happy with this. Another problem I was having with this is that it's almost too see-through for me. Like, I want a little bit more coverage, which is what I was able to get here. Like, the coverage here is much nicer. I then started to doubt myself though, and I thought maybe I need more of a brushed yarn to kind of replicate the mohair look. And someone left a comment under my latest YouTube video and recommended this yarn, which is the Pasquale Suave, and it is a brushed cotton, which is mind-blowing to me. Like, this is witchcraft, literal witchcraft. Like, you see the texture of this. It's basically like a mohair, but it is 100% cotton. I'm like mind-blown by this. It is so soft to work with. It's so lightweight. As I was knitting, I couldn't even feel it. Like, I was like literally knitting with air. It was fantastic. So this is how the swatch came out. I wish you could feel this. It is so beautiful and soft. The gauge doesn't match the gauge for this. I am actually currently more so leaning towards this because I do want this to be a summer project, and yes, this is 100% cotton and breathable and everything that you need in the summer. I haven't tested this yet in terms of wearability. I don't know what the fuzziness would be like when you're sweating and when you're hot, whereas this one is 30% linen, 30% cotton and 20% lyocell. So this is the perfect sweaty summer material. So I'm currently making my pattern based on this yarn just because I think it will be more summer vibes, and then I can always adjust the pattern to fit this gauge instead if I really want to. Otherwise, I'm sure I will find use for this yarn in other types of projects. I'm still working on the construction for this. I'm currently at the stage where this is driving me insane. I feel like I'm never going to solve it and I might as well just give up, but that's always the stage just before you figure it all out. So I'm hopeful that I will make it work. I have knit the yoke for this probably like 5 times now, and every time it's just either too big or too long. So if you can somewhat see, that's where the raglan will be, and then at the front will be sort of like a V-neck. But I'm going to frog this one again, and I'm going to use a drops pattern. It's called White Delight. I'm going to use that as a base to then figure out my sizes and my pattern. I don't know yet. This is a later today me problem. I want to finish this ideally sort of mid-December so I can have it tech edited and tested all in time for a release around March or April time. I think it's like a 3-month testing period. I really need to start testing it at the start of January. So that's sort of what my deadline's looking like for that. Then by like January, February, I'll have a little bit more time for some new projects. And one thing that I really want to make, ideally actually I should make this now as well, is I want to make a blanket for my cat. As I showed you just now, excuse her cleaning herself, she loves laying on my hand knits, and she very specifically likes laying on the projects that I've made with Leader of the Pack. Oh, thank you. Give me a little lick. Yeah, she just seems to love the Leader of the Pack projects. She loves to like knead in them and make biscuits. Because I have so much of that yarn in like a big box, my plan is to make a little blanket for her so she doesn't have to lay on my cardigans that have like buttons and stuff. And I'm kind of drawing back on some inspo. I'm pretty sure I shared this time last year of some vintage blankets. There is this old archival knitting book that I found called Afghans to Knit and Crochet, and they have some fantastic blankets in there, which I think I'm going to take some like vague inspo from. So the first one that I saved, again, I already shared these last year, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself to some of you, but this kind of ties back to what I said at the end of my autumn video, is that sometimes you need to let the ideas fester for a bit, and if it means that things you like this winter you don't get a chance to making but you still like the next winter, then it means that it's a good thing to make. It's clearly like an idea that stood the test of time. So I feel like this is what's happened with these blankets. I already liked them last year. This year I might actually end up making one. So I really like this of like the different stripes, tartan, some sort of bobble designs, some granny squares. I don't know if I want to include granny squares, but just generally sort of the more mishmash style. I also really like this patchwork one, which has like the one colour squares and then just has like some designs on the top. I think that would be so cute, and this sort of colour scheme I could actually replicate with the yarn that I have. These are all very similar, by the way. This one's really cute with the, again, like the motifs, but yeah, just the stripe and the plain coloured squares are really cute. And then this one would be more of a dedicated project that I think would be a little bit boring because you're just going back and forth on like the length of the blanket, but I do really like the stripes that kind of go through to create this sort of plaid design. And again, colour wise, this could look really nice. So that's kind of just like general ideas I have for it. I haven't figured out yet what exactly I want to do. I think the squares would be more fun and not as boring, but then the sort of plaid design I think would look more cohesive and like nicer for her maybe to lay in as well. I don't know yet. So these are all the things I will definitely make this winter. Like I'm pretty certain I will make them. Although saying that, I made a bunch of stuff this autumn that I never included in my autumn inspo video, so who knows what random ideas I'm going to end up having. Before I finish this video, I just wanted to quickly plug, since we've been talking a lot about like pattern designing, there will obviously be a lot of patterns coming out throughout the next month and next year in general. I'll talk about my 2026 plans in a separate video at the end of December, but I've kind of been struggling with my sort of pattern testing calls. I usually make them on a Google form and pop them on my story, but then they'll only be available for like 24 hours or however long I make the link live. So I've created a separate page on my website where you can now sign up to a newsletter, and you will then get email alerts whenever I'm looking for pattern testers. That way for me also, I'm keeping a bank of contacts of people who are interested in pattern testing. Whenever I did a Google form, I kind of just lost all the contacts and details of people who would like to pattern test, and I also sometimes get DMs of people saying they would be interested in pattern testing upcoming patterns. I just never had a chance to keep track of their details. When patterns need to be tested, then you can sign up to the newsletter. It's a massive help to me as well. Without pattern testing, none of my patterns would ever be possible. So yeah, I'll leave a link to that down below. Please let me know what your plans are this winter. I always love to know, especially for like January and February, what's your plan, what's going on. I feel like it's such a weird time in the year that yeah, I'm just interested to hear what people will be up to then. Thank you always so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Goodbye.